Welcome back, everyone, to the racetrack for the Indy Karting Challenge here in Whiteland, Indiana, here on Kart Chaser. It's time to go heat racing. It's time to gear up for what's expected to be some busy racing around the racetrack here today. First on your schedule for this one is the 206 Supermasters, as they will get ready and get steady to go racing. Once again, Justin Pritz alongside Ian Fisher for today's coverage as we get set for a busy one. Now, before we get things started, your lineup looks like this for the 206 Supermasters today. Travis Wilbur, Danny Cutshaw, followed by Tom Stevens and Richard Lowe, Wesley Bullock and Joseph Stevens, along with Jason Irvin. Also of note, William McLaughlin registered, did not set qualifying times in the session. The field already doubled up and ready to go racing. We're underway for the heats. 5 minutes plus 2 laps up on the board. Ian.
A good start for these drivers, too. It's always interesting to see that first tram line and that first start if the pole sitter can get a clean jump and a clean start to the race, and we have that here. Travis Wilbur already making some hay towards the beginning. We've got our incident. Got a few karts around.
One driver already on the rails, Jason Irvin. We had several spin, including Travis Wilbur, believe, went around, collected a couple of our karts. Multiple cautions waving in Sector 2, but this has allowed things to really separate up in front. Your race leader, as a result of all that, is Danny Cutshaw. A chaotic start after Wilbur went wide, going to the outside of the curbing, coming towards the first main straightaway sections. Cutshaw's got a massive lead.
Yeah, that's really going to work for Danny Cutshaw. I don't think there was any contact between any drivers there. Like you said, I think when Wilbur just went into that downhill hairpin, he took a little bit wide, caught a little bit of grass, and the kart went around. But that's water under the bridge now for all these drivers. It's really going to work out great for Danny Cutshaw and Richard Lowe, and this is really going to shake things up, I think, too, for our future race here, Justin, because we kind of figured that if you qualified really well, we talked about how important track position is as we see another driver having problems with that downhill hairpin. I think that was Joseph Stevens, Justin. That might be a place to watch for the rest of today because it's given these drivers some difficulties. I was expecting to see a little bit of people adjusting to now being in race pace, but I was not expecting something like that this early in a heat race.
So up in front, it's the New Gen Motorsports entry. New Gen Motorsport with multiple entries in this series in multiple different classes. For Cutshaw, this is a big breakthrough with all the chaos that broke around him. He hasn't finished higher than 4th in a race this season. He currently holds almost a 3-second interval over Richard Lowe, William McLaughlin. Wilbur is setting personal bests on the racetrack, though. He is still a far bit behind your race leader by 3.7 seconds. That's not going to be easy to close up. In fact, not possible to close up in the span of less than 2 minutes here, plus the lap count.
Well, we say that, but we've seen so many incidents so far. As you were talking, another driver in the background having a little bit of trouble there, trying to get their kart going. You see one of the volunteers here at the Whiteland Raceway Park going out to help him. Going to get it going on his own, but this is crazy. This is really mixed up our heat here for the 206 Supermaster class. Is really going to make our future race interesting. You kind of mentioned it. Travis Wilbur was running the fastest times on the racetrack, but that last time by, Danny Cutshaw actually had the fastest lap. So really kind of going back and forth has really shaken everything up since qualifying, Justin.
Yeah, he's been keeping it clean and is about to reach lap traffic. That's how chaotic some of this racing's gone. You have the 50 kart of Joseph Stevens that's just in front of your race leader. Still 47 seconds are on the clock right now. Remember, plus the 2 laps once they get to that point. So, pulling off to the sunset is Cutshaw. Now, interesting enough, their team, New Gen Motorsport, races a lot in terms of this facility. This has basically become their home base if you look towards the social media pages. Goodness. And now he's got contact with the lap traffic. Lap traffic, Joseph Stevens making contact with the leader. And that has opened the door for Lowe and everybody else to zip on by. Wilbur's in the conversation too.
that has shaken everything up again. We've pretty much taken this whole field running order and flipped it on its head about 4 times in this heat race, and it's only been 5 minutes. They're going to be coming, I believe, to get to the white flag this time here. So can Richard Lowe hang on for this final lap, or do we have even more chaos left as we see a pass for the lead here?
Remember, it's +2 laps once the clock reaches 0 around the racetrack. Keep an eye on the flag stand here. In front now with everything, guess who it is? Wilbur, who's been able to recover from that near 4-second gap. He needed an incident to happen. He had it happen, and now he looks to run away, coming to what may very well be the last lap coming up here based on the clock.
Yeah, you're right. I believe this will be the last lap this time by. I had thought the clock had already expired when they came to the white flag, or I'm sorry, the line last time by. But I do believe, as you see Wilbur crossing the line here, that will be the white flag. So now he has to hang on for one more lap around. We've seen a mistake from him already, and there's still some positioning going on behind him here. Everybody's still fighting for that last podium spot here in the heat race.
They just now gave the 2 lap to correct ourselves here because it is a bit of a desync. So, on that regard though, Wilbur's had a busy race. Now you have the new gen karts that are losing ground here. It looked to be prime position. That checkup with that incident caused a lot of chaos. Wilbur able to manage the chaos after being the reigner of chaos to start the race.
Yeah, and it's a tough position to be in, especially with these drivers aren't used to really dealing with lap traffic, especially in a heat race. I will say that, Justin. So it's something that you're not used to, thrown into the middle of a situation where you kind of didn't expect yourself to be at already. And I don't blame Danny Cutshaw one bit for kind of, it was an awkward spot to be in, an awkward spot to pass, especially going into that downhill hairpin. We've seen so many incidents with it so far. It just happened to bite him that one time, and we kind of flipped the whole order back. We still have some big gainers here. William McLaughlin's probably going to gain 4 spots here from his qualifying effort, but again, it's still a battle here for this 3rd place in heat race number 1.
It is the final lap. You've seen the white flag as they zipped on by. Travis Wilbur had a spin to start this race, brought 3 or 4 karts with them into the grass for a moment, but after lap traffic plays a factor with Danny Cutshaw, it's Wilbur who picks up the pieces and runs away with the heat race victory. He starts the day with the W.
Oh man, if that is anything of what we have to come for the rest of the day, Justin, it's going to be a very interesting rest of the day. That's going to be hard to top as far as the drama that went on in that heat race.
At least one kart seems to have broken down on the side of the road here, so that will take a few moments for them to retrieve that kart around the racetrack. But, man oh man, what a chaotic sequence over the past few minutes for the Supermaster Heat. We still have 5 more heat races to go, Ian. That sets the tone pretty early.
One. Yeah, it was just the first one, and then we got 5 more of these, and so another thing I want to bring up here as we go into some more of these heat races. This wasn't the closest split we had as far as qualifying times go. We had a lot more classes that maybe 5, 6, even 7 drivers within a second of each other. So especially when they're all starting in the tram lines and that draft is going to start to factor in, I think we're going to see some more close racing. This spot you're seeing on the racetrack right here has been very exciting all day long. You come over this little crest of the hill here, it makes the kart light, and then you dive back down, which compresses the weight back into the kart again, and we're seeing a lot of drivers having trouble with that, Justin. I think that's going to be the place to watch all night long. I keep saying night. It's 9:40 in the morning. I haven't had coffee yet. I apologize.
Well, it is still pretty dark for it being the morning. Give credit there.
Yes, I will agree with that. Yeah. It
will be much more sunnier as the day progresses. The weather conditions here in Whiteland, Indiana, after all, are expected to be pretty nice, in fact. Just partly cloudy skies expected today, getting to about a high later on today, as high as maybe 80 degrees by 3 o'clock. Then, Sunday's expected to stay all sunny-like until around that 3 o'clock where it gets to 83. It'll be like summertime conditions out there. by the middle of the day and for the afternoon session. Right now, the track temperature difference is going to be fair amount different. You're talking air conditions that are about 14, 15 degrees lower on the projection. But looks like they've retrieved that kart that was on the racetrack out there. And so that will allow us to regroup and reset in the next couple of moments here for our next grouping of drivers, which will be the micros who are set to do up. And the micro qualifying, we've seen Simon Ellick, we've seen Hodges go back and forth in qualifying. It might potentially be that way for the race. They've gone back and forth, winning and getting second, so to speak, in the past few races after all.
I agree with you. I think we saw those top two drivers are really going to be the class of the field, especially in what we have coming up here, Justin. I think unless we see any, I say that, but what we saw, all the chaos and controversy in the first heat race, I don't think we're going to see that here. I really don't. I think there's enough of a spread between the drivers that you won't have drivers having to make split-second decisions like that could lead to a mistake like we saw there lap one in the first heat race. But who knows? It's been crazy so far. And if we're going to stick with the trend, that would continue. But I do think that you mentioned earlier, it's going to be one of those two that are going to come out on top in this heat race. It's just kind of a matter of which one, because you saw even in the qualifying session, there was a little bit of, I would say maybe race practice going on, a little bit of back and forth and some passing, even though it was the qualifying session. So we'll see how that transpires going into this heat and then obviously into the feature race later on.
Our second grouping of drivers for the heats now taken to the racetrack. Here's how they qualified. It started off with Simon Ellick setting the pole time by 3/10 over Hodges. They battled back and forth in the session. And then you have Blake Martinez set to line up third. Diesel Maxwell, James Fox, Patrick McNeely. How they'll line up here. And they are still trying to get themselves grouped up for the tram lines here. They're making contact in the tram lines. That's how much they have to check up some of these drivers with how much speed they carry. They are very optimistic for our start zone.
A little friendly bonk there.
Green flag, we're underway. And already a lot of separation in the pack. We're underway for race number 2 for the heats today.
Again, it's our favorite spot of the racetrack. We'll see if everybody can get through here cleanly. Justin, didn't mean to cut you off here. I was just really excited about that one single part of the racetrack. Everybody making it clean so far. This time we see a little bit of bump drafting there going on between the second and third place karts, but so far, you kind of mentioned it, everybody out kind of spread out on that initial start.
Sabadoa trying to keep separated out, in fact, from his rivals, including a good start from Martinez. Martinez was able to jump to second right from the get-go. Now he's feeling the pressure from behind. That's Hodges trying to provide that set pressure in the battle for second.
Hodges really doing everything they can after kind of falling behind here. You mentioned it, a great move by Martinez to get themselves into the second spot, again through what I'm going to jokingly refer to as trouble corner for a few seconds there with no problems. And look
for Hodges. Hodges providing a lot of pressure to the back end of Martinez. This is bright spot news for Simon Ellick, who now leads by 10 kart lengths. Watch this upcoming straightaway. This is where the separation really seems to build out. Hodges going for the run to the right side of the track. Wants the position, takes the position. Martinez can't get the crossover this time.
That was really, really well done. Kind of what I mentioned in the last lap. Used the momentum off of the banking there and was just able to get side by side with Martinez. And you saw at the very last second there to the end of the straightaway, able to just tuck in and get that preferred line going through the corner. And that's really important because that helps you maintain the speed. If you get in there and you're side by side, you're really going to be slowed down by going through the corner. So really, really good job there by Reagan Hodges to get back in front of Blake Martinez before going into the corner.
Now it's the question, can Hodges close the gap? Still, 2.5 minutes are on the clock at the moment. They've burned around 2 minutes 40 seconds so far. Your top three within about a second of each other on the racetrack. And this right here, you can see some of how much Hodges is pushing. He's trying to send it later into these corners, try and make up some ground that way instead of the slow in, fast out approach.
Well, Hodges is going to catch Simonek. That's not the question. It's just, will Hodges be able to pass Simon Ellick once they get there is going to be really the important thing. They're running, I would say, commensurate lap times. Right now, Hodges is a little bit faster, but once this battle gets started, I think it's going to even out, and you might actually even see Martinez start to creep into this battle here as we have just about 2 minutes left in our actual race time. And then as we messed up multiple times in the first heat, Justin, they're going to have 2 laps after that. Not 1 lap, 2 laps after the 5
Here we
minutes.
go for the lead. For the lead, a swap around by Hodges. Take around back by Simon Ellick. And already the 33 showing the power of the draft coming out of the banking with that long straightaway today on the 73R circuit. Still a minute to go, and right now Hodges is on the prowl.
You mentioned it. Hodges got there. Was in trade positions going through every corner. That's really going to open up the door for Martinez to get back in there.
Still 17 seconds on the clock. That time at the stripe. We'll see where the lap count goes. Now from here, Hodges has a couple laps at least to set things up here. That's the main thing. But it's pretty clear that he wants to get this done quickly. Keep an eye on this straightaway. He's been good on the setup in the draft. He's more closer this time. Does he take a peek? Yes, he does. Simon Ellick to the outside. Hodges inside to the lead. And no crossover this time. Yes, in fact, it is for Simon Ellick. Able to get things switched back over. And that seems to be the big thing. There's good draft there, Ian. But the switchback potential allows a great chance to defend today.
Yeah, what Hodges is doing is just practicing that move. I don't think that Hodges really wants to make the move until the last lap to really make it stick, because you can kind of see that every time that he gets in front, that Simon Ellick is able to come back. So I think that move, like you mentioned with the draft here, we'll see if they go for it again this time, is really the key. It's just going to be the timing of it, and can they get enough run into the next corner, because really that's where Simon Ellick is coming back and able to cross him over with the left turn here, is coming back and getting the preferred line. But if Hodges is able to do it and carry enough corner or speed through the last corner to hold the preferred line into that left-hander, then that's a done deal right there. That's a heat win. So we'll see what happens here as we come to the end of this race.
White flag is out, final time around here from Whiteland, Indiana for the second heat race of the day. This is the Micro Swift finish. And Hodges needs to close up quickly. This is not close enough with the draft to be able to battle for the lead. He sent it aggressively, coming to the 2 lap to go mark. Now he's separated by 6 car lengths. Simon Ellick holding on. Simon Ellick, no pressure. Hodges too far back. Coming up to the checker flag this time by Simon Ellick, able to get things done. In the end, Hodges able to keep things at bay for a top 2, but it's Simon Ellick who holds her off to come away with the checker flag and win the Micro Swift heat race.
Yeah, it's still front row for both of these drivers. So I think going into the future race, you're going to see a continuation of this battle. We'll see if Hodges is anything different for Simon Ellick that time around in the future race. I think with a little bit more time, as you see a few more drivers crossing the line. And I just want to point out, by the way, Justin, look at that suit. That's pretty fantastic. That's a checkered flag suit there from our flagman, and that's a. I want to give him some props because he did choose that suit and decide to wear it here today. So I want to give him a little bit of a shout out for that one.
Well, either way, we still have plenty of racing to go on the schedule. 2 races down just like that. And pretty quickly, no cleanup should be expected here. We have a big field of karts that are going to be ready to go for the mini Swifts. Coming up here, out they go. Daniel Guerra starts things off over Dominic Gaddis. Then Andrew follows with Will Feinsteiner. Then Titus Robertson, Dalton Sears, Austin Taylor, and Lincoln Willie. Then it's Bentley McCann and Kason Hendrickson. Hudson Andrews, the last to set times. Dylan Thomas did not start qualifying for today. And already getting sorted before they even get to the choose cone today. That cone set up right about there per race announcements today. Just warming up the tires as they come up to the start zone for the front straightaway. It's the mini Swift Heat. All set to go racing here at Whiteland Raceway Park. And one Kart, hold on, has stalled out. Don't think they waved the green there. Track is displayed on scoring as full yellows as we had a Kart still stopped. And a few drivers, I don't think they've gotten. Yeah, they didn't get the signal, some of the drivers yet. Yeah, I'm not sure who stopped there, Ian, but obviously you can't start when a kart's just stopped on the racetrack.
Right, I'm just trying to make sure that everybody else is... Sorry, I was looking right now to see that everybody else was just getting... You saw the hands up from some of the drivers there that was trying to pass the message along back through the field here. It looks like everybody's slowing down and getting regrouped. I was just making sure, concerned from a safety point of view, that everybody had us on the same page there. But good job by the track workers here at the Whiteland Raceway Park to get them grouped back up, and we'll go back, I believe, green flag racing here, Justin.
Get regathered up here as 10 strong this time. Per time in scoring, the issue was to Hudson Andrews in kart number 6. We'll regroup and restart. Green flag is out, clean start underway, and a good launch by O'Gara as he tries to run away. Gaddis keeps to second, still side by side, about 5th or 6th on back as they make their way out to sector 2.
See if they can get through this corner here. That's always been trouble on the first lap for all these drivers. Looks like everybody able to get through safely this time. And again, O'Gara and Gaddis up to an early lead on the rest of the field here. We saw this in qualifying as well. I think it's going to be a top 2 battle, but you see back in the pack the rest of those drivers, how tight it is here for the rest of those spots. It's going to be really important. We mentioned how important track position is going to be for the heat race, but especially when we get into the future races, Justin, you really want to be in a good spot early so you don't have to battle through half of your race before you start fighting for real positions.
46.9 to start things off, by the way, for O'Gara, the quickest out of everybody to start off this race. Trying to keep the separation right now. We've seen draft in the last class be very significant. Can he try and break the toe? That doesn't seem like it's going to be easy to do today, is the main key. It's within half a second last time by for everybody else. So it seems like it's about a second or so. Once you get within that range, it's much easier to close based on what we've seen so far in the patterns today.
Yeah, these karts kind of have a bubble. I would say it's kind of similar to, I wouldn't say it's the same, but similar sort of to like the NASCAR next gen cars, where once you break that bubble, it's a little bit easier to get to the kart in front of you, but there's almost a window where it hurts you a little bit. Now, what I'm looking at right here, and you're seeing it on your screen, is this battle for second and third. If these two drivers are smart, they can work together. They've got a nice little tight pack they have. They've already kind of broken that bubble. They can use their two karts to get up to Danny O'Gara, and you saw O'Gara took just a slight look over his shoulder there. I think he's trying to get the situation. He knows that if they keep working together, they have a chance to catch him, and then he's going to have to fight both of them. But now you see a move to the inside there by Will Flettinger on Dominic Gaddis. Doesn't look like he's too interested in helping out. He just wants to get in front of him here.
That's allowed now near 2 seconds for O'Gara, by the way. O'Gara is gone. Everybody else scrambling behind. There's a rookie race leader who's built up a strong buffer, setting times up to a second quicker in a couple instances so far in the pack. But you have to consider this is a race that could have some points implications if things hold the way they are here when it comes to these standings. With how tight they've been at times this season, you're talking potentially at least a 10-20 point swing for someone like Gaddis if he can't close back up to the podium at least.
Yeah, Gaddis has actually lost another position as well. You mentioned it. He's outside the podium now, and I think there's problems with Gaddis's kart because he's now fallen down to 8th place. I'm not really sure what has happened to him, if he just got shuffled back or if there's issues with the karts, but he has fallen all the way down to 8th place. And you mentioned it, falling out of the podium wasn't great, but all the way down to 8th, that is going to be devastating to the championship points race.
That's going to hurt his total. That's a grand total of about 38 you can make for 8th place compared to the 50. So that's going to reduce things a touch bit. Keep in mind, Guerra missed two rounds this season. That put him behind the 8 ball. He has won this season before, a couple times, in fact, 4 in total, according to the heat races, and now seems to be in position to do it again. Under 2 minutes to go on the clock for him. Weinsteiner currently in second, Avalos in third, Roberts and Sears, your top 5 as they run to the racetrack. And you see a lot of squabbling still for 5th. All wow. O'Gara tries to run off into the sunset, or so to speak, the sunrise, by 2 seconds.
Try to run into the midday sun. That's what he's trying to do. But you mentioned it. He's just absolutely opening up the hugest lead we've seen so far today. We're over 2 seconds right now, and I think it's going to continue to grow. I will say I'm very interested by some of these other drivers. They don't really seem to want to link up in a draft chain to get back to O'Gara. Maybe they just know they don't have the speed right now, or it's something else. Maybe it's just wanting to fight for that extra position. I really think, though, if you are serious about trying to win this race and you're not Danny O'Gara, you've got to work with another driver to at least get yourself a chance of battling with him, because right now he's just continuing to check out. Although, as you say, that did drop 0.2 of a second the last time by. So maybe O'Gara taking the foot off the gas a little bit here, just trying to conserve what he has in the kart for the future race, or maybe they're starting to work together farther back in the pack there.
There's the signal, 2 laps to go on the double sticks. All of this is wow. Things have settled out, so to speak, for second as well. Leicester and Avalos, you've seen some hand motions last time by for them down the straightaway. Last time they did close up 3/10, but not enough in theory to close. There's a look at the 2 of them there. They look to fight it out. Feinsteiner and Avalos, red for Feinsteiner. He eludes the spot to the blue Avalos. So that moves him up to second in that kart. O'Gara still holds on up front. The 7 is up to second. As we come around this time for the white flag this time by.
Yeah, I think it's tough, too, if you're fighting for that second and third spot. You saw the draft was working a little bit. They're making a tiny bit of time back up, but then you mentioned it as well, Justin. There's just not enough time left to catch Danny O'Gara at this point. So you might as well battle for that final spot there in second and third, and then kind of take your chances in the feature race. I think that's what these drivers are going to be doing here as we come around the hairpin one more time before getting the checker flag. I really do like this final section here, the 2 hairpins before the start-finish line. We've seen a lot of passing there so far, Justin, but it's going to be Danny O'Gara who's going to come and take the checkers here for heat race. I'm sorry, the only heat race, not heat race number 1, but the only heat race here for the Mini Swifts.
He gets it done by 2.2 seconds over Avalos and Feinsteiner. Taylor rounds out the top 4. Roberts loses spot to Dalton Sears at the end. Then Lincoln Willie, McCann, Hendrickson. Dominic Gaddis had a disastrous round. He finishes dead last in the end. Look at the finish Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, you got to think there was a kart issue for Dominic Gaddis there.
Has to be. For it to be that turbulent around, in fact, believe we have another kart stopped there at the side of the road, so it's going to take a moment or so to gather up before we get going once again. Halfway through the heat races so far, Ian, your thoughts so far on what we've seen racing-wise?
The first heat race was definitely exciting. It's kind of settled down a little bit from there, which I sort of expected, especially going through these classes. I was expecting to see maybe a little bit of trouble here in the Mini Swift class, but we did see a lot of passing, a lot of position changes. Did see some trouble there for Dominic Gaddis. He's unfortunately going to fall all the way back down to 10th, so that's going to be a tough tough way for him to battle back. But I'm not really surprised by what we saw. The fast drivers in qualifying have been the fast drivers in the heat races as well. You kind of expect that unless something really catastrophic happens. And for the most part, I think everybody has been keeping it clean. So good racing so far. I'm excited to see what we have for the rest of this morning. I'm really excited too as the track starts to heat up, what we'll see in the future races.
And we have put in a fair amount of rubber into the racetrack. You have to think, too, with how we've raced so far, Ian, that rubber going to be part of how things play out, so to speak, for the rest of this way. As it looks like, just have a few more moments for the 206 heavies hit the racetrack. Again, 206 heavy. Yeah.
Still getting one car going there off the racetrack, it looks like, so...
Yep, I was about to say the 206 senior heavies had a very interesting qualifying because you had the points leader qualify in fifth. You had Scott Hamill make his first start, nearly take the pole, but Brian Williams, Brian Williams specifically, took the advantage on the final lap coming around to the checkered flag. It was a tight session, it seemed, for these drivers in their respective groupings here, and it could potentially set up what could be a wild race for the 206 senior heavy.
You kind of mentioned it too, a few wild cards in there as well. Some drivers we haven't seen a lot of, and that's tough if you're a driver that's racing every single week and then you kind of throw a wild card in there. It's another thing to think about. It's another driver that you have to be concerned of, and not a lot of people are used to how they may be racing or the pace that they have, so it's just another adjustment that you have to make. But I think if you're out here and you're racing every week, you're used to making those adjustments. It just may take you a qualifying session or maybe half a heat race to really figure out what's going on, and then it's just business as usual again.
Looks like they're out on the racetrack here as they quickly set things up. Again, it's Brian Williams, followed by Scott Hamill, Troy Tony, then Matt Geist, Evan Corkodale, followed by Kevin Simonellic, Josh Pecchione, followed by Spanzel, while Brendan Lurick did not start qualifying, and disqualified for qualifying with the penalty was Andrew Goldman. All the carts in position, ready to go here as we get set for our fourth total heat of the day. It's 206 senior heavy. Plenty of smoke kicked up as they head to the start zone. Green flag is out. We're underway for 206 senior heavy. And a big jump for your race leader to start things off. A lot of side-by-side and a lot of hand gestures as the 578 of Hamill runs away.
Have a little bit of a point through there. I think one driver just wanted to settle in and not go side-by-side through a corner, so you saw him point out and let another driver take the spot there. I'm not sure who that was, but a little bit second on back, a little bit of contact I think I saw there. One kart got a little bit sideways. Everybody able to hang on to it, though, it looks like, through at least most of this first lap, at least. Scott Hamill, though, you mentioned making, I think, his first start, you mentioned, Justin, able to get out to an early lead here.
Lead of at least 7 kart lengths to start things off. In fact, sizable gap to already deal with. Matt Geist jumped all the way to second to start things off in the opening lap as well. Matt seems to be on the pace. Corkodale still in the 5th position. So keep an eye on the race leaders. They make their way around the circuit here. Prime passing opportunity still. That long straightaway out of this right-hander here. Does anyone else leapfrog, or do they try and work together to close up? Looks like the strategy for most of the field is work together, stay in a line and work together.
Yeah, that's what I've seen so far. Really, nobody's getting too aggressive with their passes here early in the heat race. They're not really trying to take any risks, and maybe they've seen some of the earlier races. You can see all those drivers behind the fence. They're watching each one of these races as they go on, so they're able to take some notes and see how things go. And you might be in a different class, but the general racecraft doesn't change very much from class to class, Justin. So if you kind of see that everybody's having trouble getting it going on the first lap, you might want to just sit back, find a spot, and then go to work from there. You do have enough time to do that and get a few positions. But you can't dilly-dally too much in these heat races. They do go quick. But one driver that's definitely making the most of it, you mentioned it, Matt Geist, able to get up to 2 positions, now finds himself in second trying to run Scott Hamble down.
Can he close up the gap? That's the question. He gained about a 10th last time by with some purple sectors. Separation is still pretty surmountable to try and battle with. Troy Tony, by the way, has charged his way up to third in all of this. On the last lap, he made the slingshot to move on up. So, some drivers electing not to just remain patient. They want to be the leaders of their pack and feel like they may get held back here. Keep an eye on the drafting section this time. Tony is that kart that's lined up third in the line. Some drivers in the 7th spot trying to duck out. No duckouts this time.
Something I'm just seeing here, I don't know if you saw on your timing in scoring, Justin, but it looks like the 578 of Scott Hamble actually has a jump start penalty, so he's going to serve a 3-second post-race penalty. So right now he finds himself about a second up on Matt Geist. If he can get that out to 3 seconds, it doesn't matter. But right now, Matt Geist is actually your provisional leader of this heat race.
Outright dominant pace from the jump for Scott Hamble. But it's 7/10. Everybody else is trying to work together. Less than 90 seconds on the clock. Still a few minutes to be able to plan things out for the rest of the field. Hamble's gap evaporating as the run progresses. You can visibly see the draft starting to come into play here for those kart with Matt Geist. Now having a battle. Having to play some defense. Tony wanted to go around. Instead, they stay back in the line. Is that early? Too early with how they're closing. The fight's on for second.
Yeah, I think Geist there went a little bit wide into that hairpin, and that allowed Troy Tony to actually get in there. I don't think that was intentional by Geist at all. I think he was just feeling the pressure there a little bit and kind of went wide, allowed Troy to get in there, and now he's going to have to battle. And look at this just gaggle of cars from about second on back through fourth. This is going to be a battle, I think, that's going to continue for the rest of our heat race. And any of these 4 drivers could be finding themselves on that top row with Scott Hamble.
Still 26 seconds or so left on the clock here. You can see Hamble having to look back more and more. The gap right now down to 4-5 kart lengths after being up by about 10-15 at one point. Double sticks in the air this time. 2 laps to go in this heat.
Two laps to go, and you can see it's still a very tight battle here. And if again, our timing and scoring is correct, Scott Hamble does have a penalty here. So that battle you see behind him is not for second place. Right now, that battle would be actually for the win of this heat race and top positioning going into your features. So that's still very important there in that battle from second on back through fourth. This is actually for your heat race win, and Hamble's going to keep going on the track. I don't blame him. You're going to get your time out there on the track, some practice, and he's still very, very fast. So I think when it comes back to the feature race, he's still going to be the one to watch out for. But right now, white flag is in the air. This battle continues.
So it's a jump start penalty that Scott Hamble's dealing with right now. That will place him as far back as the end of the top 5. Everyone else trying to win on track. Troy Tony trying to hold on to what is net lead for this race. Lap traffic taking away a passing opportunity. Moving out of the way there. Is there going to be a chance for Matt Geist to get a send? Geist gets close. Geist looking for a place to cross. Hamble now has Tony closed up as well. Coming to the checker flag. Hamble defends hard inside, checks up Tony. Matt Geist comes along. Side by side, black flag displayed for Hamble, as in the end it's Matt Geist, who tentatively believe has the win. He crosses in front of Tony at the line.
That was way too close, at least visually, for me to call that. But right now, yes, it's showing, at least on timing, that Matt Geist did just barely edge out Troy Tony for that win there in the heat race. You saw how close that was. All 3 of those cars were basically neck and neck coming across the line there, Justin.
So once again, Matt Geist gets the edge. It was by about near 21 thousandths of a second. Evan McCorquodale also was in that drafting pack with Brian Williams in the top 5. Simon Ellick, Maurer, Pecchioni, Spanzel, Goldman, and Brennan Lorink rounded out the field for this race. So that was an exciting one once again for that field here, as that will see potentially some shuffling for the points. We'll see how the features play out later. Our next race, though, it's K8 Juniors. It's already time for them to sort out. It's going to be Ryan Mort, Mason Gallion, Landon Bucher, and Lucian Laser. AJ Stoner lines up 5th with Josiah Phillips. Dane Van Dyke in 7th, Evan Patton 8th, and Gabriel Payne did not set a time in qualifying. He's in the field, though. 9 set up for K8 Junior. We've seen some intense racing break out so far. We'll see if the intensity continues for this group. It was a group that's seen qualify for the top 4 within 0.2 of a second. We're underway, and already near contact, some drifting already from your pole sitter. The outside line, Ryan Mort, able to get the grip. 2 karts in that chaos going off the track, 1 stuck in the grass as the top 4 battle it out, heading off to the drafting section.
Yeah, we mentioned that these starts are going to be so chaotic all night, all morning long, especially going into that first hairpin. A very interesting start zone we have here at the Whiteland Raceway Park really leads to what you're seeing right now, just an absolute battle here. First through about 5th place between these karts. A little bit of a separation now for Mason Galen in the top spot, but behind him there, 2nd and 3rd, Ryan Moore, Landon Buer really battling, and now as it comes across the line, it looks like actually Mort is going to be the driver who's in the lead. My mistake there, and it was Galen that's fighting for the 2nd spot actually with Buer. So a switch there between the top spots of Ryan Mort, Mason Galen. You kind of mentioned it there on the start, Justin, really taking advantage of some mistakes by drivers on the start, was able to get Ryan Mort up in a really good spot and able to hang on to it here. But you can see he's getting challenged by both of these drivers.
Challenge is on for 2nd, in fact, as Landon Bucher trying to find a way to poke and prod around. And lots of experience at this racetrack. We touched upon some of the experiences over time. He looks for 2nd over Gallion. Gallion is the one who now gets shuffled back to the 3rd spot in the KA Juniors. Tense racing continues. Your points leader is already trying to line things up, and we've already seen Ryan Mort play extremely defensive in this race. Does he go defensive again pretty soon? Have to be at least next time by, as it's being set up by Bucher for the next time around.
Yeah, and it looks like Buer really gets a good jump through that last double hairpin section, and that's really where he's able to narrow up the gap with Ryan Mort. But it seems like Ryan Mort's kart has a little bit more top-end speed, at least early in this heat race. He's able to put a little bit of a gap, definitely coming out of the bank corner into the tight hairpin, where we see that's been one of the big passing zones so far, Justin. So if you're not able to make it stick there, it is kind of difficult. We'll see what happens here and what Landon Buer has for him as they come into the hairpin section this time.
Again, a bit of a defensive maneuver, trying to battle things around here. All sorts of slipping and sliding to make their way through the course. Bucher and Mort keeping all lockstep up at the front. Now here comes a bit of a bobble, sets things up for Gallion. Gallion forced to back up out of it. Mort still remains in the race lead. Still 2 minutes to go on the clock around the racetrack. Still plenty of time to sort each other out here. These two karts are lockstep. Last time by, they were within a couple 100ths of each other on average pace.
Yeah, they're going back. AJ Stoner and Dane Van Dyke still battling for that 4th and 5th spot. The rest of your karts have kind of slid out to larger gaps on the racetrack, but you mentioned it, it's still a tight battle up here for these 3 podium spots, Mort, Buer, and Gallion. just going back and forth, trading spots, it seems like nearly every single lap, Justin, and I think it's going to continue to go that way. And I think what we're going to see for the rest of this race is you're going to see people try to set up moves, maybe not take them, but try to see a spot where they can get their kart in a position where they can make that overtake and then leave that move for maybe the second to last lap or possibly even the last lap, because we've seen it. It's once you get in the lead, it's hard to be passed for the lead again, but it's also very hard to make that pass for the lead, as you see an attempt for it right here on the inside. That
Still
is a great
trying
move
to
there.
Yeah, some good passing there from Gallion to be able to jump up here. Gallion staying on the aggressive as well in the midst of all this. Still 50 seconds on the clock that time by as they stay lockstep. Top three. Also of note, AJ Stoner is keeping in the conversation, at least, keeping things within 3-4 car lengths to be able to stay in the lead pack. Gallion has already been aggressively blocked at least once this race. There he goes to the inside, straight to the cut, straight to the point, straight to the cross, right back to the lead. Booher now able to slip on by as well in the midst of that.
Tried to get him back, tried to get Booher back with the move that they made the lap before in that set of corners there, and wasn't able to try to get it quite to stick. You saw in that camera angle that you see right now when they went by 2 laps to go here as they come across the stripe. As they went by, you saw the kind of late move there that Gallion tried to make. I think he wasn't entirely sure with it, wasn't confident he could make the move all the way down into that corner, and you kind of saw it led to some chaos coming back to that S section.
Booher now trying to hold on to a buffer. Gallion, we already know if he gets close enough, if Mason gets close enough, we'll lunge it again. Now it's the matter of the setup. Right now he's within 2 kart lengths, already 1 kart length coming up around. Seen double sticks last time already. White flag is out. Final time around. This is the final time around for these karts. Will it be Booher? Will it be Gallion? Can Mort find a way around either of them? Working their way towards the final drafting section here. Last time by, Gallion set his personal best to the race. Gallion sees a defensive maneuver, tries to take it to the outside. Side by side, Booher drifts, opens the door more for second than does for the lead. Booher able to slip and hold on. Booher comes around the final corner. It's going to be Landon Booher who holds on in front of the crowd to win in KA Junior. He picks up the heat race win over Gallion and Mort, Stoner and Van Dyke, your top 5.
And what I've been noticing here, especially as we get into the heat races, Justin, is that there's about 2 or 3, maybe even 4 karts that are identical as far as pace goes. But really what's been the difference is just the positioning into these passes and where you make the passes with leaving yourself the capability to carry enough speed to hang on to the lead after. We've seen plenty of dives for the lead, but they've always resulted, it seems like, in a crossover right afterwards. So the driver that can manage their speed the best and really make those effective passes and make them stick. It may sound cliche, but really we've seen a lot of drivers struggling to make a pass and make it stick and hang on to the position for multiple laps.
Rest of your front runners, by the way, Evan Patton, Josiah Phillips, Gabriel Payne, and Lucien Laser, the 9, how they lined up in that race, and we are already set for our next one. That's how lightning quick things are going today. It's time for our final heat race on the schedule. It is time for the 206 Light to hit the racetrack, the senior lights. So how they qualified was this: Elijah Fox, Braden Hebert, Jared Howerton, Braden Johnson, Gavin Baird, Dominic Stancombe, top 6, then Kelly, Gage Justiano, Ethan Williams, Nick Patton, Levi Wilbur, Ian Stowell, and Zachary Allen. All the drivers getting their tires warmed up for the start box as they hit the tram lines. All set to go for our final heat race of the morning session. Who gets the job done before we go feature racing? Green flag is out. We're underway. And off to a clean start as they make their way through the tight bit section. Already the top 2 karts breaking on the way. A good launch that time. A breakaway from the top 2.
I was going to say, really good job there by Heber and Fox to get an excellent jump off the start. You took the words right out of my mouth, Justin, but I guess great minds think alike, right? So you can see Fox is still kind of ducking in there, trying to get the arrow, especially in the lead. That's super important because you're the one cutting the hole through the air. You'll kind of see Heber here won't duck in as much as Fox will because the air is already being broken by Fox's kart for Heber. So he doesn't have to work as hard here. But I think if you're Brandon Heber, you don't want to start getting in a battle with Elijah Fox. I think you're going to see these two guys, especially at the front, work together to try to push themselves away from the rest of the field. But right now, Johnson and Howerton are actually hooked up a little bit better than these two. So they might be able to make a little bit of a dent in this gap that they've generated so far.
So Fox and Eber try and pull away from the rest of the group. Already trying to stay aerodynamic, and we've seen that come into play in qualifying already with these drivers. Trying to keep things up, trying to make it a 2-car battle. Limit the variables is the way I like to phrase it, compared to, say, what we've seen with the 4-car battle already in the earlier heats.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, is just limit your variables. Make it so that I only have to worry about making a move on one driver, maybe not 2 or 3 drivers, or just in a situation where, although, as you said, as we're talking about it, we see a little bit of side-to-side racing here. Heber thinks better of it. We'll file back in with Fox, but it's really just sort of the mental aspect of kart racing. It's almost like, I would say, pack racing that you're probably seeing in Talladega and NASCAR this weekend, almost to an extent, where you want to work together with a partner. You want to get yourself away from everybody else. So it just, like you said, makes your decision-making process easier. You don't have to think about as many things. The more that you, the less that you think of a driver, the easier your job is.
And they seem to be willing to competition, or so far cooperate is a better phrasing. Competition, the combining of the two words. Howerton is the fastest. Well, Howerton is one of the fastest karts in the racetrack. It's worth noting. The problem is he and Braden Johnson are not closing. It's worth noting their respective group. In fact, they're swapping in that second pack you've seen in the backdrop. The top 2 stay stagnant, but Johnson and Howerton swapping around there in the backdrop.
I think that's a good move too. If you're Johnson and you're Howerton there, let the kart who's faster at this point just kind of go in front, and then the slower kart can kind of use the faster kart as a tow. If you have the slower kart in front, it's not like the faster kart can really push you all that much. So at this point, just let the faster kart cut the air for you and try to hang on to the back bumper as much as you can, kind of like you see between these two leaders here, Fox and Heber. I think Heber, if I was him, I would just be sitting here watching Fox and kind of looking for maybe spots where he goes into a corner a little bit more than I think that he would, or something like that. What you're looking for in the last couple of minutes of this heat race is just a spot where you can make the pass. And you might not even make the pass in the heat race. You might be content here sitting on the top row, because if it was anything like this last start we saw, we'll probably see these two jump out to an early lead in the feature race as well. It's just, what are you going to do to make that final pass? And we've seen it so many times that you really don't want to hold on to a lead all the time. It's really easy to make that pass into the corner. It's just making the pass work throughout an entire lap.
So right now, for those wondering how the plans work for the top 2, it's near 2 seconds, the interval between them. A second and a half, in fact, between second and third. Right now we're down to about the final minute to work with here. And when does Heber make this move is the question. When does he decide, okay, now I can go and make this pass?
I think we've seen historically today that it's going to have to be the last lap. And if it's not the last lap, you're going to have to make it in a position where you can definitely complete the pass, clear the other driver, and then make sure they can't get the run on you going into the next corner. Because like I said, that's what we've seen so many times, is people have been able to make the initial pass They just haven't been able to hang on to the position for multiple laps in a row. So I think that's the decision-making process that Heber is making in his head right now. I think if you're him, you wait until the very last lap and try to lead the last corner of the race as you see a little bit of bumping here. Again, I think that's just to push them away from the rest of the pack even more.
So coming up to 2 laps to go this time by. It's been a plotting and a planning from Braden Heber in this run. There's the 2 sticks in the air to signal the 2 laps to go. Fox has led all the laps so far in what's looking to end up being a 2-horse race to decide who goes in front. And let's find out if it's going to be this time or if it's going to be a final lap lunge here from Heber. No lunge this time. He goes straight to the back end of Fox.
I will say, though, if that's the spot, I think that's where Heber is going to make his move, because you mentioned it. He's able to get all the way up to the back bumper of Fox and get right up to him. I think if you're going to see a final lap pass, that's going to be the spot to do it. You can see now Heber is starting to duck in, maybe trying to make that gap even closer between him and Fox as they take the white flag.
Final time around. Does Heber take the move? Does he get the chance to make the move? Elijah Fox has remained up in front this entire time. They've pulled away by more than 2 seconds. Defensive from Fox. He anticipates what's about to happen. Heber tries to go for a crossover. Not in position to do so. Elijah Fox still has to make it a couple more corners. Pressure from Heber, trying to provide the footsteps, trying to provide more pressure from behind. Coming up to the checkered flag, it's Elijah Fox, who will take the 206 Senior Light Heat victory.
And I think Heber there with a couple of taps to the back bumper of Fox in the last couple of laps. I think Fox is able to use that knowledge, actually, Justin, and be like, hey, he can get to me here, so I need to play defense in this one corner. Able to do that and hang on for your Heat win. Jared Howerton, Braden Johnson, Levi Wilbur will round out your top 5. Gavin Barrett, Dominic Stancombe, Gage Justiano, Ethan Williams, Colton Kelly, your top 10, and then Nick Patton and Zachary Allen will round out your field here for your 206 Senior Light Heat. So that's it for all the Heat racing. I think are we going right into the feature racing, Justin, or do we have got a little bit of time here before we get going?
We do have a little bit of time here in what's the 9th meeting date of the season here for Indy Karting Challenge competition this season. We have a distance of about 10 minutes before we have the drivers hit the racetrack for the 8 minutes plus 2 lap finals. So, on that note, why don't we take a quick step aside here. When we come back here at 10:44, it will be 206 Supermasters to lead off the field for the finals here for the Indy Karting Challenge here from Whiteland, Indiana. Welcome back to today's coverage of the Indy Karting Challenge from Whiteland Raceway Park here in Whiteland, Indiana. Just about all set to get back to racing as we again welcome you back to the racetrack. Again, happy with us for today's coverage here from Indiana. Justin Prince alongside Ian Fisher as we get geared up for racing action. Let's talk about how they'll set things up here. Remember the 206 Supermasters with Wilbur, Lowe, Cutshaw, McLaughlin, Bullock for the top 5. Stevens and Irvin rounded out the official order. Tom Stevens did not take the green. All set to get back to racing these 8 minutes plus 2 laps today. It's time to go feature racing with the 206 Supermasters. Happy with us here on Kart Chaser. We're underway here from Indiana. And Wilbur, a much clean start. Looks to run away. We'll see if there's any troubles in this section this time. This was where Wilbur had issues before. This time, much cleaner to begin this race in.
Yeah, I was interested to see how this class would get through this first set of corners here after we saw what happened in the heat race. Much cleaner this time. It makes a lot of sense, Justin. This is the feature race. This is the one for all the important points now, so these drivers don't want to make any mistakes early, set them up at a bad spot where they have to play catch-up for the rest of this race. And you see here Travis Wilbur making no mistakes and no waste getting to the front here early in this race.
Yeah, we know how fast that kart can be for Wilbur. He's already off and away by 7-8 kart lengths over Richard Lowe and Danny Cutshaw. Leslie Bullock also picking up a spot that lap of note. So, what goes through the psyche when you have a kart like this that seems to have, when it's clean, with no issues, the ability to pull off like this?
I will say I think Wilbur's spin in the heat race was quite an anomaly. I think it was just a multitude of factors. I don't think that was really any mistake that he really made, that it is a normal thing that he would do. I will say when you're out in front of this much of a lead, it's a nice problem to have. You still got to be cognizant of what's going on the racetrack. I will say that. Especially we saw in the heat race that if you get into lap traffic, that does become a factor as well. So really, I wouldn't say that you're even hot lapping at this point, although as I say that, he lays down the fastest lap on the racetrack. I think you're just running consistent laps, and I think you're really concerned about just hitting your marks at this point, because if it comes to a point where you do have to fend off any battles and you do have to maintain that lead position with a little bit of force, you want to be decisive and you want to be confident going to your apexes, because that's the way you're going to be able to hold off the drivers behind you and carry your speed. But I really don't think it's too much of a concern for Travis. I would say he's probably comfortable in the kart right now. I don't think too many nerves, too much anxiety is going through him right now. I think it's just business as usual for the rest of this race, and just try to stay out of any big mistakes.
Indeed here, and right now he's got a 1.6 second lead. Danny Cutshaw, of note, able to jump up to second in these past couple laps. So far, a good race for Cutshaw. Once again, able to battle with his teammate Richard Lowe. Take a look at various parts of the racetrack as they zip their way down the straightaway. You can see that difference in a straight line, how it's been built up. Nolan McLaughlin also doing well so far. Tom Stevens in the top 5. Take a look at your current leader once again. It's a lot more spread apart than what we've seen in the heat race. I will give that credit with what we've seen so far in this race. A lot more spread out.
Yeah, we haven't thrown all the karts into a blender as well, too, so that kind of helps a little bit with it. I will say, though, Danny Cutshaw, the leader of most of our heat race, is also right now the fastest kart on the racetrack for the past 2 laps. So, again, I do think Wilbur is not driving at 100% speed. I think he's probably at about 95% right now, so I do think that's why you're seeing Danny Cutshaw cut into this lead a little bit. It's only the slightest bit of time advantage that Danny Cutshaw has right now, but still is enough. And remember, he was competitive in that heat race until he ran into some lap traffic and had an incident with them. So he's still in this race, I would say. And speaking of lap traffic, we had one kart have a little bit of an incident there. That was Joseph Stevens. Could potentially get in the way of our leaders at one point.
Still have less than 4 minutes to go on the clock here for this field, by the way. So far, so dominant for Travis Wilbur. Again, to recap Wilbur's season, started things off slow, started on the podium with a third place run in round 1, finished 4th in round 2, but since then has finished no lower than 3rd. In fact, has finished just about every race 2nd or 1st. He had a spurt where he won 2 straight rounds, back-to-back heats and feature wins. He won the feature last time out as well. His points lead is almost up to 300. With how things have gone so far today with the 50-point start to the points tally from the earlier race. Right now, still setting the pace by 1.2 seconds is Wilbur. 3 minutes left on the clock for this field.
Not only that, Wilbur set your fastest time the last time by nearly a half a second. So definitely starting to check out on the rest of this field right now. It's his race to lose, I would say, for sure. Has almost about, I would say he's about a fifth. Well, that's a really, if you divide the racetrack into fifths, he's about a fifth ahead right now of Danny Cutshaw on the racetrack. So again, his race to lose. Danny Cutshaw is doing a great job hanging on to that second place. William McLaughlin, give him a shout out. Had a really good showing in the heat race. Gained, I believe it was 5 positions. Justin now finds himself hanging on to that 3rd podium position and trying to just stay away from Richard Lowe. It's really been those two battling for that last podium spot here in this feature race.
Still 2 minutes on the clock. And right now, it's Wilbur time on the racetrack. Still keeping an eye on some of the other intervals on the racetrack. William McLaughlin might have a chance to close up to Lowe, depending on what happens here in the battle for what's for 3rd. They're separated by about a second. Everyone else keeping their distance here. We'll say the racing around this racetrack, it's so unique because you have so many opportunities for different layouts. Remember, even if you get this layout just right in terms of how you feel comfortable and how it's comfortable to your kart here, Ian, it still can, in the end, you have to remember, be a different course for tomorrow. These drivers have a much more different course, in fact, for tomorrow's races.
Yeah, and it always keeps you guessing. I will say there's a certain parallel to every corner, right? You know, there's only a few ways to approach your different classes of corners, but I will say if you get yourself used to this one racing configuration and then switching the next day, it can throw you off a little bit. I don't think it's too terribly bad. Again, these drivers will have a small warm-up session before we go live too, so it won't be exactly their first total time seeing the racetrack. It'll just be the first time seeing it doing competition laps maybe. So it's not too terrible, but that's part of the reason why you like being a race car driver too, Justin. I will say that is the challenge of going between different configurations and trying to see what you can do, trying to see, for example, what you can do with this banked corner here that you see Travis Wilbur going over right now, and try to hit different lines on that, try to get a different run going down to the straightaway, give yourself a different advantage. So I think it's not too much of a challenge. I think drivers look forward to this type of challenge where you're trying to find new things. You're trying to take different lines. And if you haven't looked at this racetrack on Google Maps or something, you make a great point, Justin. There's so many different layouts they can throw at you here. It's really a place to test these drivers' skills.
2 laps to go for this field, by the way. Well, we're up by near 5 seconds. Dominating fashion for the feature race, to say the least. But it still isn't over. And this kind of really sets the tone, so to speak, for the next couple races for this class, you'd have to think too. These drivers get the afternoon session tomorrow.
Yeah, it makes a difference, especially the track temperature is going to, I think, change as well. Also, tomorrow there's going to be a lot more rubber from the weekend into this racetrack. I don't believe it's supposed to rain this evening, so a lot of this will stay on here. And then the heat tomorrow for these drivers, it's going to be a little bit different for sure. Probably a little bit less grip, I would say, because once the rubber gets down and then gets heated up, it gets a little bit slippery, even though the rubber helps you out a little bit. So definitely is a little bit different. We'll see if Travis Wilbur can continue his, I don't want to say domination, because he hasn't completely, I would say, dominated the rest of these drivers, but his command of this class as we go into tomorrow's festivities.
Just about all closed up here. It is the final lap for these drivers. Travis Wilbur, outright domination. Will make his way to lap. Few drivers in the end. So, coming up to the checker flag, it will be Wilbur, who will take the checkered and gets it done over Danny Cutshaw. Richard Lowe rounds out the top three with McLaughlin and Stevens. Your top five, Jason Irvin and Joseph Stevens, along with Wesley Bullock, rounding out the order.
Give a shout out to Tom Stevens there too. Gained 3 spots from his initial start and able to get himself into the top 5. So a good evening for him, or a good morning for him.
Some outright dominant pace in heat number 1, as we still have 5 more heats, 5 more features left to go. Back onto the racetrack we go as we get set for our next group of drivers. It's time for the Micro Swift Heat feature. It's the Micro Swift final coming up here on Kart Chaser. It was Simon Ellick and Hodges, how they lined up. Reagan Hodges, she finished second in the last race. Blake Martinez, Diesel Maxwell, James Fox, Patrick McNeely. How they're sorted out here in this one. Again, Justin Prince alongside Ian Fisher as we get set for our second final of the morning session. All set as they make their way slowly to the start zone. Green flag is out. And we're underway with a good launch for Simon Ellick, already clear of Hodges.
we saw all through qualifying, even through the heat races as well. It's been that battle between Simon Ellick and Hodges. We'll see if that continues to be the case or if Martinez this time can get themselves into that battle as well. You saw that Martinez was on the outskirts of this battle between the heats and qualifying, with Hodges taking a look to the inside early here. It's going to make a relatively easy pass on Simon Ellick. I think Simon Ellick maybe just filing in right now, although he's going to try to take the crossover move here. They'll be side by side for a second, but Hodge is able to hang on to that spot for now.
Expect this to be fairly intense now for this race. Already another peek to the inside? No. It's Hodges who leads over Simon Ellick to start. Blake Martinez staying very close to begin this run as well. And we've seen in past races, Hodges put on some outright dominant pace and performance in her kart. Right now, the kart looking to try and see, is this an opportunity to break away a bit, keep a buffer over Simon Ellick?
We haven't seen Hodges at the head of the pack either today, so we'll see if now that she's up there, if it's a little bit easier to hang on to the lead. You saw back when Simon Ellick was leading the heat race that it was really hard for Hodges to make a pass there, but we'll see what happens now that she's in the front of the pack. Simon Ellick, though, not making it easy, not giving any room really for Hodges to make any kind of mistake, and Blake Martinez as well, still hanging in there. So this top three battle we've seen all day long continues to be exciting.
We'll see how long this sort of battling continues. Martinez has showed some solid pace all throughout the day today as well. Just continuing to pace their strides at the moment. That is the one thing they can do right now. Keep within good relative pace. Simon Ellick looking more like he's getting a bit defensive compared to what Martinez is starting to pressure behind. And when it comes to these karts, what's that pressure like when you're racing along like this? You know someone's there, but you also don't want to take the eye off the ball, so to speak, and take the eye off the driver in front of you.
You'll see it too. You can kind of watch different drivers. They'll check over their shoulder at different times. One spot that I've been seeing where a lot of drivers will check is actually coming out of this bank corner right here. So we'll see if Hodges takes a look over the shoulder. Don't see it that time. Personally, I don't really like to look. You could actually hear, I would say, a lot more than looking helps, at least me personally. But it's different for every driver. Some drivers like having the visual cue. Other drivers, you saw there for a second, Hodges took a look back, can do just fine with the audio cues. Really comes down to driver preference. I would say Hodges looks very comfortable right now. I think Simon Ellick is really comfortable right now. I think the driver that's pushing the most really is going to be Martinez. I think Martinez has the biggest, I wouldn't say chip on their shoulder, but I would say the most to prove here in we're almost 4 minutes, almost halfway through this future race. I think Martinez is going to be the one to watch to make a move here on Simon Ellick rather than Simon Ellick making the move on Hodges.
Narrow poke right there again for Martinez. Back in line they go. Still 4 minutes and 20-ish seconds to work with on the clock here as Hodges maintains pace, and she has, throughout this run, showcased at this racetrack her ability around the racetrack, I think. She's very comfortable. She's very solid when it comes to the racing. Seen some great runs from her. Seen some outright dominant pace earlier in the season when filling in for one of the broadcasts here. It's been impressive what we've seen from really just someone in, I believe, would be third or fourth grade.
Yeah, I don't know the age group really, honestly, off the top of my head, but I mean, really, it doesn't matter. I mean, just some exciting racing here. And yeah, go ahead.
Look at that. Simon Ellick, Martinez, and Hodges all duking it out. Simon Ellick sent it from fairly deep out to be able to lunge to the lead.
I wasn't expecting that move from Simon Ellick, I got to be honest with you. I was just kind of break down while we were talking that this battle had kind of really heated up, and these drivers were side by side, bumper to bumper, and you see there Simon Ellick able to make, you mentioned, a desperate lunge to get to the lead. That shook things up a little bit. Not only that, Martinez was able to take the second spot away from Hodges. I don't think Hodges was even expecting a move like that from Simon Ellick, but you're going to have to be bold. You're going to have to make moves if you want to win these races. Now you can see that Hodges is really giving Martinez problems, trying to get back around him to try to find a way back up front.
And now we'll see if Simon Ellick can try and get a sweep of the round. Still has 2:40 to go, and what does anyone else behind now do to try and recapture that speed to close up this gap again?
I don't really know what you can do, at least right now. I would say if you're Reagan Hodges, you got to get back in front of Martinez. I think Martinez is slowing you down a little bit right now, but at the same time, I think Martinez is doing an excellent job making their kart wide and making it really difficult to pass, holding on to that second podium position. Right now, you can see the defensive line all the way down into this set of hairpins here. What I will say that does do is going down low into that big hairpin, the first one, is it sets you up for the crossover on the second corner. Hodges not able to get it done that time, but Simon Ellick is loving this battle behind him. If these two drivers behind him keeps battling, it just makes their job easier as they continue to push away.
Now they stay in the line and work together to try and close up to Simon Ellick. About 90 seconds to work with here in this one. Simon Ellick's been doing really good throughout the day. You have to give credit again to him as well. That pace has been there since the start, and now seems to be really pulling away. Hodges is more focused on battling for second.
Yeah, I think right now they've kind of realized that that move by Simon Ellick has kind of just opened up enough of a gap where it's going to be really hard to catch him in these final laps that we have left. So really it's a battle here between second and third place for the final two drivers in the podium, and we'll see what can happen here. I believe this would be, although I'm not going to say what lap it is because I've messed this up so many times, but not a lot of time left in this race. I will say that, Justin.
Yeah, just 45 seconds to work with. And Blake Martinez, remember, was losing ground to these two in the last race. This race, it seems to be working despite the fact he's going major defensive and trying to break out of the draft rather than work in the draft.
I think in that position you really do want to, because the draft is only going to help Reagan in that case. So I think that was the right call to break out of the draft, and then also the right call at the last second there. You saw him drive back up into the racing line to really get the apex on that corner really well, because if they held down there and took the short apex, I think that was really going to give a lot of room for Reagan Hodges to gap back up there, and she has narrowed the gap back down again, but I don't think it's going to be enough time to be able to make another move here on Blake Martinez. So a great job of being opportunistic by Blake Martinez and taking kind of that line when Simon Ellick created it and making the move around Hodges in the first place. And you can see, still having to play defense, Hodges is not making it easy.
Still coming to 2 laps to go. Martinez closing. Martinez within a kart length. What will Martinez do now that he's in the best position yet? Blake Martinez trying to set things up with 2 now coming around. Final stretch here in this one.
We'll see here too if Martinez makes the move. We saw it happen where Simon Ellick was able to sneak in from third. I wonder if Hodges will be able to follow Martinez through if there's a move made and take that spot away.
Martinez not close enough for a lunge though this time around. Simon Ellick still holds on in front as they make their way around the course. How will things play out this time around? Martinez trying to get back closed up. He's been better coming out of this section, but not close enough for the drafting sections. This time around, Simon Ellick holds on, takes the checker flag, picks up the win over Martinez and Hodges, and does so by about 1/10 of a second. So the micros.
That was close, though. That was a battle.
Yeah, the micros completing their close battling there. McNeely, Maxwell, and Fox, the rest of the running order, but it's Simon Ellick who picks up the win. We'll take a quick step aside. Next race coming up in just a couple minutes. It will be the minis in just a moment. Our next group of karts now hitting the racetrack as once again it's time for more Indy Karting Challenge. It's time for the minis to go racing, the Mini Swift Final. 12 karts set to battle throughout the day, 2 DNSs expected per the lineup in Andrews and Thomas due to issues. Danny O'Gara will lead things off for this group. Andrew Avalos in second. William Fleischsteiner, then Austin Taylor and Dalton Sears. Titus Roberts starting sixth for this group. Lincoln Willie, followed by Brent Bentley McCann in eighth. Kaysen Hendrickson, and then Dominic Gaddis is expected to be the 10th starter. Andrews and Thomas once again currently listed as DNSs for this group. This group of drivers getting themselves all positioned and ready to go as they get ready for the green flag here. Green flag is out. We're underway. They go 2 by 2 as they try and sort themselves out quickly. Fowles already up to second, but it's Danny O'Gara who ran away last race that looks to do so this time. He pulls away by 10 kart lengths already.
He made it through the first corner, too. I thought he was going to go a little bit wide there for just a second, Justin, but able to hang in there. And we've seen this happen all throughout the day. Who's able to get off to that early start, that early jump, is able to at least command the race through the early stages of it. We've seen throughout the morning, I keep doing that these drivers start to get themselves kind of in a line and figured out after about 2 or 3 laps. But we saw in the heat race that Danny O'Gara really jumped out to an early lead and then didn't look back after that. So I expect to see more of the same here in the feature race, and already has almost a 2-second lead on the rest of the field.
Outright dominant pace from Danny O'Gara, to say the very least. He is your untouchable today when it comes to the speed. O'Gara, a lot of experience at Daytona earlier on in the year, picking up some wins there. Seems to be dialed in with his pace here in this round. Weichsteiner, by the way, in second. Sears jumped up 2 spots so far. Fallow's getting shuffled back to 4th. Austin Taylor rounding up the top 5 so far. Still 7 minutes or so to work with on the clock. Still plenty of time for the battles to break up for second and so forth. Because that train is, well, it's bumping and banging.
And somebody I'm watching actually, Justin, kind of deeper in the pack, Dominic Gaddis. You remember he had some issues in the heat race and had him starting towards the rear of this feature. Has already worked his way up to 7th from 10th, so a gain of 3 spots right now. I'm interested to see how many more spots he can pick off here before the end of this race, because he did have some dominant speed, some quick speed early in the heat race. Not quite Danny O'Gara's pace, but was very, very fast until he had some issues in the heat race.
Right now, things have really settled in. The temperature's starting to kick up a little bit. You can see the sun coming out to play. As right now, Weichsteiner so far has been able to break away from the rest of those in the second on-back grouping as well. You see him there. And it's a thrill to be able to race at a track like this, you have to say. And so far, we've seen that thrill really come to be some dominant feature races despite some close heat racing so far. It's an interesting trend so far today.
Yeah, it really has been. We saw that qualifying was really close, heat races were really close, and then so far every feature, one leader has gotten out to at least a really early lead. But Danny O'Gara continues to be the class of the field every single time he's crossed the stripe so far. It's been a fastest lap for him so far. You continue to see just the line on the gap on the timing tower continues to increase. Again, going back, I know I'm kind of homering on him, but Dominic Gaddis now up 5 spots, finds himself in 5th place from 10th, and it is now threatening Austin Taylor for the 4th spot.
Yeah, still about half the race to work with here. 4:35 you see now pop up on your screen. Still plenty of time to work with on this racetrack. O'Gara continuing to stretch ahead, setting lap times half a second quicker than the field. Curious, what goes to the psyche of the field when the interval grows at the rate it's been growing? Like if you're in second or third, what goes to the mind when you see someone like O'Gara put down these times?
You start to focus, I think, on your own race at that point. I think if you don't, you'll start to drive yourself crazy. I think in racing, no matter what discipline you're doing, there's always going to be somebody faster than you. And I don't think you can let that get to your head too much. So if you're someone like Will Feitinger or Andrew Avalos, I think you're just trying to race your own race and maybe try to go for a personal best lap time. If you're not going for a personal best lap time, just at least to find things to be confident about, be consistent about. If you're in second and third place, you're still finding yourself going home with a podium, so you're probably not too disappointed. If you're farther back in the pack, you're really just trying to find things that you can improve on, find little improvements, and then when you go into next week, you can use those things to maybe try to increase your position there. Maybe you find something with your kart that you didn't know about earlier that you can fix and tweak your setup a little bit and find that way. So there's always things that you can take out of a race, and I think that's really important if you're a driver trying to develop yourself, is to find something coming out of every single race, because you'll drive yourself crazy if you only measure yourself on how many races you win.
And remember, it's about development too at this level. You're still developing your skill set, still learning as drivers as well. It takes time. It takes having these races, in theory, where seat time is seat time to be able to develop.
Yeah, and you have your goals going into the weekend, and who knows what everybody's individual goals are, right? I mean, it could be as simple as just feeling comfortable on the racetrack. We mentioned it, Justin. This is a development league at the end of the day, development organization. So this is not going to be, for all millions of dollars or anything like that. This is to just hone your skills. So I think that's the important thing right now. I almost think that it can really maybe to an extent even be detrimental if you're dominating every single race. This is no knock on Danny O'Gara and everything like that, but it almost gets to a point where if you're leading by this much, you're almost looking for that next level of competition maybe and saying, how can I push myself even farther? Because as much as it feels good to win a lot of races, you don't necessarily find your full development from just dominating every single week.
Still less than 90 seconds to go. O'Gara's lead almost 4 seconds last time by. That gap continues to grow. Weichsteiner currently has a gap of about 0.2 for second. That's now swapped over to Avallo, should say. Avallo's in the blue cart. You see zip on by. Has jumped up a spot. But the race leader continues to run while they start to squabble a bit for second place. You see how that interval has really steadied on in for O'Gara. There's the rest of the pack right there.
Yeah, it's a close battle still from fourth back down to second. Dominic Gaddis even has gotten himself into the conversation here for that final podium spot. So it's going to be tough for Weichsteiner to hold on to that last spot. I will say Avalos last time by did run the fastest lap time. So he is starting to put a little bit of dent in Danny O'Gara's lead, but I think you're running out of time at this point to chase him down.
Yeah, at this point, it's more so who's going to get second, third, or fourth. Dominic Gaddis having a bit of a shocking round, though. You have to say the points leader for this series coming in, just having a rough round. And the thing is, his competitors for the championship, Titus Roberts, Bentley McCann, have not taken advantage. That's the critical thing in the case of Gaddis. He's still outscoring who he needs to outscore to win the title fight.
Not only that, I think he honestly has a genuine chance of getting that third podium spot too. So all things considered, I think that's a great day for Dominic Gaddis, especially with the issues that he had in the heat race, starting him in the back of this feature, to go from last up to a podium spot, even fourth spot if he happens to stay there. You talked about individual goals and expectations and what you can take out of a race, even if you're not the leader. That's a huge win if you're Dominic Gaddis.
So, coming up to the white flag this time by O'Gara, putting up some dominating speed on the racetrack. He'll look to close things out this time by. White flag is out, final time around. Bowles still holding on to second spot. Weichsteiner losing a spot to Gaddis last time by. Gaddis able to get to the podium at least for his efforts. That's a points haul of at least 175 if he holds on. But for Danny O'Gara, it started off dominating. It ends off dominating. In terms of his feature pace today, he'll make his way to the final section this time around. Danny O'Gara puts up lightning rod speed, and Kart 67 will take the final. It's the Mini Swift final win, this time for O'Gara. Andrew Avallos behind him will come away second. Third spot, Gaddis. Weichsteiner does set a purple lap on the final lap in fourth. Austin Taylor, your top five. Sears, Roberts, Willie, McCann, Hendrickson, Andrews, how they line up to close out the field. And so, that brings us about halfway through the morning finals. Couple minutes to sort things out for the 206 Heavy. We'll take a quick step aside. More coverage after this. Karts hitting the racetrack once again. It's time for the second half of our final schedule. 206 Heavy due up next. 206 Senior Heavy Karts, led by Matt Geist this race, will make things around the track. Troy Toney, then Evan McCorkdale will be lined up with J. Brian Williams, Scott Hamble, Kevin Simonellic, Carl Maurer, Josh Piccione, then Jared Spenzel, Andrew Goldman, Brendan Lorink rounding out the 11 for this field. Just Prince alongside Ian Fisher for our second half of this schedule of finals. 8 minutes plus 2 laps up on the board. It's time to see how this grouping closes out their day. A lot of smoke being kicked up there from the inside row. Green flag is out and something is wrong with one of the karts. A very bogged down start in the heart of the field there as plumes of smoke kick up. Everybody else able to get going and pressurized for the race lead.
Looks like we're going to have a clean start, too. I was wondering possibly about a missed start there or maybe a restart, but it looks like we're going here. And already a big battle developing between Matt Geist and Troy Toney. We saw this in the feature race, too. They went back and forth. Toney able to make that move on Geist towards the end of the race, but Geist able to take it back. And right away in the feature race, Justin, it's already another battle between these two.
Already starting to build a bit of a buffer to start things off in this race. We haven't seen buffers last for long already. Tony, here comes the 19 kart. Corkwoodale closing on up, trying to find a way to get to second.
Now we saw McCorkdale too with the points lead. He's trying to get back into a points paying position, already in the points paying position, but you know he wants more, wants to try to get at least up to second, and he'd love a win here if he possibly can. And I think he's got the speed, and it's definitely a 3-kart race right now for this lead, and now maybe even throw Brian Williams in there as well with a 4th kart, although we have 1 kart go wide. I believe that was Matt Geist. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, not quite sure there, but that's really separated things out here. Bit of a gap now built up. That was McCorkdale, who's fallen down the pylon. As a result, it was the 19 kart, your points leader, who went wide, and Troy Toney is now in a prime opportunity to try and swing points back his direction here, with him still in second.
We were just talking about it too, how McCorkdale got himself into a spot where he could kind of claw some points back, and then right after we say it, that off track there is going to drop him, you mentioned, all the way down to 5th place. It's definitely not going to help him with Troy Toney breathing down the neck of our leader Matt Geist right now. So really it's going to be Toney's race here. Like you mentioned, they try to make that big swing, get some points back, has just over 5 minutes and 2 laps now left to do it. But Matt Geist doing a great job, and we'll see when he crosses the line this time by. Not the fastest lap that time. Troy Toney actually ran the fastest lap. So still a heated battle here going on for the lead with just over 5 minutes left.
This battle should continue to go on and on and on with how they're breaking through here. Toney and Williams staying pretty close right now. The top 3 have broken on away. Hamble, by the way, who had that penalty that put him back at the end of the top 5 last race, still has not been able to close up either. So Hamble really paying the price from his jump penalty from the heat race. Speaking of trying to jump forward, J. Brian Williams trying to push things along. This is for the lead. Toney zips by to the point. He brings J. Brian Williams with him.
I think Toney really here understands the magnitude of the moment. I think he's really looking at the points picture right now. That was a decisive move to get to the lead of this race, and we'll see if he's able to hang on as we continue through the rest of this feature here, because all over the back bumper of him right now, just not give him any room. We'll see if he tries to peek out here going into the corner. Is going to file in here. The top 3 still trying to just file in and push themselves away from the rest of this field. They've done that so far, Justin, but if they start getting into positions here where they're jostling and everybody's getting side by side, that field can be back on them in no time.
You're seeing really Matt Geist just falling back and falling back quickly too with all this. Yes, under 4 minutes to go on the clock. So now it's the question, what happens next? Do they try and break away together, or do we have a gauntlet of a fight? Last time by, J. Brian Williams did set the personal best lap of the race. Looks like based on what we're seeing here, the answer right now seems to be break away, work together, try and make it a two-car battle rather than keep it a three.
Ideally, you want to do that in practice. It's not always as practical as you'd like. You can see here that Troy Toney and Williams are doing a good job of this right now. Matt Geist wants to get back in there if he can, but really just struggling right now to try to find a way to get the tow back to these two karts. It's really going to take a mistake or maybe some battling between the top two drivers to get Matt Geist back in there.
Yeah, right now he's still remaining in the draft, but isn't close enough to be able to try and do anything back there. They're leading the early portions of this race. 2.5 minutes to go on the clock here. For those wondering how everything else is going, McCorkindale is in 4th, Hamble is in 5th, Piccioni is in 6th, Simon Ellick is in 7th, Maurer, Goldman, Lorick, and Spanzel, how they're currently sorted around the racetrack. Still a 3-car breakaway by more than 2 seconds. So we come up to 2 minutes to go.
Well, I think it's important, too, to keep in mind here as you watch this battle for the lead, how deliberate that these drivers have had to be and how much methodical effort you've had to put into every single pass. You really got to set it up way in advance here, and you even see it like right on the bumper like that. That's not going to be enough. You need to have that run coming out of the bank corner and really getting down into that S section to really make the pass there. And we've seen it in other places. There's not really a good spot to make a pass unless it's there or going into that downhill hairpin. And as I say that, we have a pass on the straightaway right now, making me sound like I have no idea what I'm talking about, Justin. But that's normal. That's normal in this line of work.
Well, there goes Matt Geist closing up all that gap after all. Just remaining within the draft, and sometimes that can happen. Now Matt Geist going for the lead. Tries to rip it away from Toney. Toney tries to cross him over. Side by side for the point. A push once again for J. Brian Williams. They stay locked together once again on the push away. Now once again they try and work together and ditch Geist. 1 minute on the clock. Still plenty of time to go.
Yeah, really flat-footed, the driver there, and those two were able to break away. They kind of find themselves side by side here, now filing in as we head back towards the start-finish line. Just 45 seconds left in this race, and then we're going to have 2 laps here. We've already seen some moves here, maybe some experimentation from these drivers trying to figure out where's a good spot to make that pass, where's a spot where this driver is vulnerable. Maybe is my kart faster here than this driver's kart, so I can get in front of them and then block them heading into the next turn. But still, any of these drivers right now I think have a very, very decent, realistic chance of winning this race. It just comes down to who's going to make the right move at the right time.
It seems like they're committed to try and make sure that it becomes still a 2-car battle. The problem is Geist still has the pace to be able to keep up with him despite that. Tries to poke to the outside. Goes for a crossover to the inside for second. J. Brian Williams still plays solid defense in the midst of that. Clock reaches zeros. We'll see how the lap count goes. 2 laps to go.
And McCorkindale with the fastest lap, those 2 laps. So if these drivers get battling here, he's really not out of position for a podium spot, I think.
Yeah, you might be able to take advantage of things bubble over in this race. When does the move come for the race lead? J. Brian Williams has been committed to pushing Toney. He's been in prime position to gain great points on that 19 kart all day. Now, the setup is on. Coming to the white flag this time around. Just one more lap for these drivers to settle it out. Final time around for Tony, J. Bryant Williams, and Matt Geist up front.
See if we see a move here into the first hairpin like we've been seeing. This downhill hairpin has been being one of the passing spots that we've seen. We'll see if there's a move here. I think he's going to do a great job of sealing it off here, the 24 Kart is, so he's going to be able to carry that into an important braking zone here. We'll see if anybody has a run off of that banking. There might be a lap car factoring into this battle for the checkered flag as well.
No move into the corner. Will J. Bryant Williams get a chance to make a move? Is there a chance to poke to the right? No. Still in front is Tony. One more set of corners. J. Bryant Williams looks for the pole. Elects to stay on the back end of Tony. Tony celebrates. He gets the win in 206 Senior Heavy.
Really opportunistic run there by Troy Tony. Saw the early mistake there by Evan McCorkdale and knew this was his spot to really get in there, get himself not only a win, but a real good chunk of championship points. Evan McCorkdale, give him credit, was able to recover back to 4th place, but still a really good day for Troy Tony there to make some kind of chunk in his championship run.
So it's Tony, it's J. Bryant Williams, Geist, McCorkdale, Hamble, the top 5. Carl Maurer, then Josh Piccioni, Simon Elliott, Goldman, Lorenk, and Spanzel. The rest of the lineup still waiting for karts 81 and 52 to cross the stripe. They will cross it here. Lorenk and Spanzel finish their races here and now. So, 2 more finals to go on the schedule. Next up in the order, K.A. Jr. That starts in just 2 minutes. Karts on the racetrack for our next grouping. It's the K.A. Jr. final. Already getting themselves resorted out here. K.A. Jr. Race number 11 total of the 12 this morning. Landon Bucher, then Mason Gallion, Ryan Mort, A.J. Stoner, Dane Van Dyke. The top 5. Evan Patton, followed by Josiah Phillips, Gabriel Payne, Lucian Laser. How they're ordered for this race. All set to go. Green flag already waving. Back underway for the action here from Whiteland Raceway Park. A good start for the 820 Kart as he pulls off and away. Tries to run away from the ever-aggressive Gallion.
really excited for this feature race too, Justin. This was a really, really entertaining heat race. A lot of these drivers just battling the entire time and multiple lead changes. We'll see if that trend continues here into the feature. So far, Landon Buer doing a great job getting himself out to an early lead. We've seen how important that is today in every single class to get yourself out to the early lead. You can at least avoid some of the mid-pack drama. The race probably will eventually come back to you, as we see it is right now with Mason Galen really just putting all kinds of pressure on him right now as they head back through that first S section. But really, it's important to get yourself out to that early lead, kind of avoid some of the drama maybe in the mid-pack. We've seen that from all of our drivers that have finished in the podium so far.
Hertz still holds on up front for the time being. He's trying to sort out how he's going to play this out, knowing the pressure from behind. Hertz so far has had a busy racing schedule across various different racetracks, including having opportunities to try and qualify for the World Final, but fell short in the U.S. Trophy Final. Right now, in this race here in Indiana, seems to be really setting the picture and setting the tone over his competition this race compared to last race where it was a dogfight for the heat race win.
Yeah, this one's really kind of stretched out a little bit, kind of even gap all the way through the field. You kind of see everybody has a gap of about maybe 6 to 7 kart lengths between them, and really it's just kind of strung out here as a bit of a train situation. Nobody really fighting for any kind of position right now, with the exception of maybe 5th and 6th place right now, but no side-by-side battling. And you can see that Buer here, maybe something they found in that kart, because he's starting to pull away. You mentioned it was quite the close battle earlier, and now it's not quite getting to be the same way, at least for the lead. A battle developing, though, I will say, for 2nd and 3rd place between Mason Galen and Ryan Mort right now. That is something to watch.
A lot to watch for with how this is working out around the racetrack. So, right now the gap 1.1 seconds up at the front. AJ Stoner's also had some impressive runs this season, to give him credit. We mentioned AJ Stoner's name a couple times on the broadcast. He seems to be providing some pressure to stay towards the front here, but tied together is Galen and Mort for 2nd and 3rd in their pack right now as we come up to 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, and for just a second there, Mort was able to take 2nd place away from Gallion, but Gallion able to take the spot back as they come across the stripe, and you see that gap continues to build for Landon Buer, the fastest lap that last time by with a 41.9. Nobody else has cracked the 41-second mark in this race. A couple of low 42s, but really the class of the field right now is that 820 kart with just under 5 minutes remaining left in this race. It's right now really his race to lose, just smooth, consistent laps for the rest of the race for the 820 kart, and he should find himself in the top step of the podium.
Yeah, and you still throw in the mix everybody else in that choo-choo train, still trying to stay lined up astern in it. All while the 820 is screaming away. The sun's really starting to come out, though. It's becoming a beautiful mid-afternoon time. It's become much more brighter on this racetrack compared to when we first started in the morning.
Yeah, we're only 15 minutes away, too, at least on the East Coast. Maybe not local time, but on the East Coast, for me to say afternoon and for it to also make sense. So that's good for me as well in the commentary booth. But something I'm really surprised about here, Justin, is just how dominant Landon Buer is been and how fast he's been, and he has no draft. You can see all the karts behind him are in a tight little line, and they still can't even come close to the 41.9s that Landon Buer is not only laying down, but consistently laying down. His lap times have just nearly been identical the last couple of times around. Only that last time was a little bit slower with the 42.1.
Takes part in MPG Motorsports as well in regards to their team outfit. That outfit has had some success as well at the Stars Tour level this season. So, some great pace being put on by your race leader still. Choo-choo train effect now reaching its way all the way back to about 6th position with how they have accordioned together here with less than 3 minutes to go. And somebody in that battle for second is going to want to jump ahead and pretty quickly. You'll see that train pretty soon in the backdrop.
Yeah, you have to at this point, especially with the way that Landon Buer is checked out. If you're AJ Stoner, Ryan Mort, Mason Galen, any of those drivers, you've also been very competitive today, so you still have something definitely to fight for here. Steps on the podium are definitely important to these drivers. Being on the podium in general is important to these drivers. As you see here, Stoner and Mort kind of making a little bit of a gap for themselves away from Mason Galen right now. Galen even is falling back where he's getting pressured by Dane Van Dyke right now in the 5th position if they're not careful. So still 2 minutes left here. Got to continue to run your race and run consistent laps, finish out strong here, and put yourself on the podium.
Still keeping an eye on that train effect that we talked about. You see that choo-choo train starting to form up. AJ Stoner now leading that other pack. Still trying to find a way as Gallion still also working in the midst of that. Ryan Mort, they're getting uber aggressive with almost 90 seconds to work with.
Yeah, Gallion saw a little bit of daylight there in the double S section, thought about making a move there, but then filed back in. That is one of the spots we've seen people making moves, that, and then the corner that you see on your screen right now, but you can continue to see just the massive gap that Landon Buer has opened up on the rest of this field right now. Just absolute domination, probably the most dominant race we've seen so far in the feature this morning. So a great drive there by the driver of the 820 kart, but still a battle going on here. 2nd and 3rd place. You'll see it coming into your screen shortly. A little bit closer for that 3rd podium spot, but still there. Anybody's race, I think, for the podium between about, I would say, 2nd and now 5th place. I think anybody there has a realistic shot of getting to the podium, as I think we'll come to the double sticks this time.
Absolute domination in another final today. Buer this time, the one putting on the domination. He had to fight a lot in the last race. So, will this be 2 to go? We'll have to see. The clock just reverted down to about 40 seconds. Still, we have time on the board. It looks like based on this, we still have a couple laps at least to go. So, continue to zip on here and zip forward. It's been a zippity-doo-dah day for Landon, though, on this pace.
Yeah, absolutely. No issues for him so far. And I'm starting to see here, as you see this shot right now, look at those trees. It's starting to get a little bit windy out there, Justin. So not really the hugest deal for these drivers, as those karts are pretty low to the ground. But I will say it makes a little bit of difference with the drafting. And especially in some of the corners, you're not expecting maybe a little bit of a gust of wind. It can upset these karts just the tiniest bit. So something to watch for, at least for the rest of the day, as you see the wind starting to pick up a little bit. Now we have double sticks in the air, 2 laps to go.
Final 2 laps here in this race, and what has been outright domination from Buer in this one. AJ Stoner, by the way, is back in 3rd. Ryan Mort has taken 2nd spot in that pack that's been working back and forth. Van Dyke has moved his way up to 4th. Gallion is all the way in 6th. It's not going good for Mason in this run. So coming up to the white flag this time by final time around for the KA Juniors.
Yeah, that is perplexing for Gallion, too. Really had a strong heat race and really a strong start to this feature race, but then something happened about midway through and just started losing speed, losing positions. You mentioned it, now finds himself in 6th place here. But one driver, I will say, that's had no issues with speed at all is Landon Buer, just continuing to put down screaming lap times and just a larger gap, it seems, every second I look down at the timing screen for him. Now almost a 5-second lead on the rest of the field here. So pretty easily wound up for him, but still a battle here for the remaining positions.
So at the very end, Landon Buer puts up a dominating performance, take the checker flag by a sizable margin over Ryan Mort and AJ Stoner. Dane Van Dyke, Josiah Phillips, their top 5, Gallion, Laser, Patton, and Payne. The rest of your running order for KA Junior. That leaves the 206 lights left to go. Taking our step away for a quick second. In about 3 minutes' time, those karts will hit the racetrack for the Indy Karting Challenge. Hitting the track for the final of this morning's session, the 206 Senior Lights. They now hit the racetrack here for the Indy Karting Challenge here from Whiteland Raceway Park here in Indiana. Just Prince Ian Fisher with you as we get set for the order. Elijah Fox and Braden Heber starting alongside Jared Howerton and Braden Johnson. Levi Wilbur and Gavin Baird with Dominic Stancombe and Gage Justiano. Ethan Williams starts alongside Colton Kelly. Nick Patton alongside Zachary Allen. And Ian Stowell will round out the 13 kart entry list for our final run-through of the morning. Happy to have you with us once again here for Whiteland Raceway Park here on Kart Chaser. Let's do this again, shall we? Slowly rolling forward. And the green flag waves were underway. And a good launch up at the front. Elijah Fox and company able to get a clean jump.
We saw this too in the heat race between Heber and Fox. It was more of the same. Fox out to the early lead, able to kind of hang on to it throughout the heat race. Didn't see much of a move from Brandon Heber in the heat race, but we saw him trying a few things, setting up. Right now, he's under challenge from Braden Johnson, so he's going to have to fight him off. But we'll see if he has anything for Elijah Fox later in this race. Right now, Fox doing a good job of just hanging on to the slightest of margins. You see a little bit of a touch there from Braden Heber, trying to push him just a little bit farther away from this pack and make it a two-kart battle.
First lap goes to Fox, Hebert second, Howerton, Johnson, Levi, Wilbur, your top 5. A lot of squabbling starting to pop up in parts of the field. Remember, it was Fox and Hebert who broke away from the rest of the field early, made a 2-kart battle. No chance for the move for Hebert. He stayed in second all the way through to the end. What approach do you make now? What do you change if you're Hebert? Because the best we've seen from him is get to the back bumper, get to the back end of Fox's kart. That's about it.
Well, that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, right? What are you going to do now? And we saw in the heat race, he did make a couple of different moves that were able to get him at least to the side of Heber's kart, but wasn't able to complete the pass. So I do think that Heber has something in his back pocket, in his tool bag for Elijah Fox. But give credit to Elijah Fox. He does a really great job when he's out in front of really sealing off those positions. He's very deliberate, I will say, in his defensive moves as well. Just doing a great job of cutting off the line early, not allowing the kart behind him to really get any kind of momentum. You saw that last time through there. Heber wasn't even close to the back bumper. He's going to make up a little bit of time through here. But right now, instead of a 2-kart race, this is really a 3-kart race, which I think works to the detriment of Brandon Heber more than anybody else, because Howerton is going to start giving Heber problems, and then Elijah Fox is going to be able to drive away from both of these karts.
They still have 5.5 minutes to go. And right now, the top 2 have broken away from Jared Howerton. How things have now settled out. And have to wonder, going through the mind of Howerton, who's had a great run so far in this one, the 78 kart. Jared Howerton did get third in the last race as well. He's still staying within range. The big thing for Howerton, with how things have gone with Johnson, is he can chip away to try and make it a battle for third in the point standings with how things are going.
Well, not only that, but I've noticed he's getting a huge run off the bank turn down the straightaway as well. So if he sees a move between these two karts, we've seen a back and forth crossover move, that's going to allow him to get a lot of speed on both of these karts. So yeah, he's holding on to that final podium position right now, doing a great job in the overall points battle of just slowly chipping away. But I think he genuinely is leaving himself in a good position where he has an outside shot of even taking a position away from one of these two karts in front of him.
And they continue to just push, and bump draft away. For those wondering, how does this help Elijah Fox in the standings? Well, it helps tremendously with how it's gone right now. Levi Wilbur is back in 4th position, and the more you consider it, Levi, he's been second in the points for a while, but he's only finished on the podium in the past few months twice. In fact, the last time he finished on the podium was round 6. He's losing ground and quickly with how this has gone in the championship, and he is still amongst those not in this main group. He is stuck in the second pack.
Yeah, give him some credit. He did make a pass on Braden Johnson for 4th position, and it will gain 1 spot, so it does a little bit there to help, I guess, maybe quell the bleeding from the championship points. But you kind of mentioned it, really doesn't have a way to get back up to this pack without something catastrophic happening here in the next 3 minutes and roughly 20 seconds. So yeah, kind of find yourself in an awkward spot, at least from the championship perspective for Levi Wilbur right now. You find it kind of slowly fading away as you see Elijah Fox continuing to drive away, still under pressure from Braden Heber. This definitely isn't over for your race win. And even now, look at Jared Howerton. He's on the back bumper of Heber, continues to just hang around. There's some points in the race where you mentioned it, he starts to fall away and the gap gets a little bit bigger, but he's kind of pesky. He's kind of hanging around in that 3rd spot no matter what.
Yeah, just staying within range. He has the fastest lap of the race, Jared Howerton does. It's easy to catch, it's harder to pass, and speaking of which, a bad exit for Heber nearly put Howerton in position to pass.
It might have here. Look at it as they go side by side. Howerton does have the advantage there. Is he able to hold him off here, able to seal that spot? So really, now Howerton in a great spot here in the middle of that draft train with only 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Finds himself in excellent position here to even maybe make a move on Elijah Fox.
Can Howerton change the status quo? It's been push, push, push so far to the back end of Fox. Howerton doesn't look like he's going to be content with that. Under 2 minutes to go, and he's already poking and prodding to try and find a way to get alongside.
It's a really exciting position for Howerton to be in here right now. You gotta be smart though. You can't make a lunge and put yourself in a position where then Heber can come back and get that spot back from you, and that's really the tough battle that you find yourself in when you're in the spot that Howerton is he can make this move, but he's got to make it so not only does he not lose positions to Fox and get the spot taken right back from him, but you're in a really risky position here with Heber. It's something that's really fun about kart racing, Justin, is you have to be so deliberate with your moves, you have to be so deliberate with your passes, and it's so easy to set yourself up in a position where you think you're making the pass for the lead and then you find yourself in third place. We've already seen it a couple times today.
Well, we see a change up front with a minute to go. Gonna have to find out because now Howerton's trying to force a breakout with Fox. Fox led just about every single lap he can today. What's going through Fox's mind at all this, you think?
I think Fox is pretty calm, really. You kind of mentioned he puts himself in a good points position. Even if you were hypothetically to give up the lead here to Howerton, that's still an amazing points day. I think you want to come in with the lead for the confidence. And right now you do see he's starting to play defense. So there's a little bit of that. He's there. He knows that Howerton is there. I think he's confident and competent enough to hold him off for the next 2, maybe 3 laps here. It might be 3 laps. It's going to be really, really close. And it looks like it will be 3 more laps potentially for the drivers. I did see a 2 in the background on one of the screens there, so if that's wrong, I correct me there. But I think he's comfortable. You see he's starting to open up this gap again here. Really, I think he knows that the battle is going to be between Howerton and Heber, and not maybe necessarily for the lead, especially as you see Howerton now starting to fall back into the grass of Heber.
It's 3 laps now on the board. That was 2 seconds on the board previous. Now, it's going to be down to the wire to see what happens between these 3. Heber had been content in second much of the race, no longer in that position. Howerton had been behind the pack in that previous race. Now he's in position to try and pounce. Now has 2 laps to be able to pounce on Fox, making the white flag. Now it's final time around. They switch it to 3 to a 1.
One more lap to go here, so this is going to make it a little bit easier for Elijah Fox. Only has to play defense for 1 more lap instead of 2. You see a little bit of a step out there for Braden Heber, maybe just trying to let Howerton know he's there, maybe make him play defense and put himself in a bad position for the next corner, but able to hang on to it. It's all going to come down to this final last section here, Justin.
1 more lunge, trying to make the move as Howerton couldn't get it to stick. Fox got the switchback, now looks to switch his way to victory lane. He goes defensive again. Howerton all over to the right. Howerton looks to the right again. Fox able to hold on. Elijah Fox takes the win over Jared Howerton. Braden Heber in 3rd spot. And Elijah Fox gets the sweep of the day.
Levi Wilbur will come across in 4th place and play a little bit of damage control, at least for his championship hopes. And then on your screen right now, you see Braden Johnson, Dominic Strandcombe, Gage Justiano, Colton Kelly are your top 8 positions right now. The rest of your drivers you see now crossing the line and finishing up their race as well. So really exciting first half of final races here for us today on Kart Chaser, Justin, but we're not done yet. We still got a second half of this day to go, but really I think a great first half so far. I think really sets the tone for what we're going to see for the rest of the day. Some close racing. I'm interested to see, too, with a little bit of temperature in this track, a little bit more rubber, if it changes anything just the slightest bit and we see anything different going into the second half of our day.
So on that note, we'll take a bit of a break here. We come back, we'll be out from behind the paywall for the qualifying sessions for 206 Sportsman, 206 Cadet, 206 Medium, 206 Junior, 206 Masters, and the K Senior Masters. Again, a doubleheader weekend here at IKC. Here as we continue on with the action in a little bit. Again, you're watching Kart Chaser. We'll see you for the second half of the day in a bit.